Jenny. You're good to go.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for letting me be here today with you guys. Just a little bit about Focus Title and myself. For those of you that do not know, so I've been in the title industry for 13 years with Nightbear Title, who's our majority owner of Focus Title. And we've been in-house here. I've been in-house here with Keller Williams since they started 5 years ago, originally as Nightbear. And so now we're Focus, and we've grown to 5 offices. As Keller Williams grows, we grow. So we have 5 offices now, and about 15 employees. So that's really awesome. It's just as Keller grows, we grow, and it's just been, you guys are keeping us very, very busy. So thank you for that, and looking forward to working with all of you as you grow in your business. So today's just really going to be about the basics for title insurance and what we are and what we do. I do have some flyers, some new flyers that we received that I'm having emailed to you guys, and also our checklist for what we need when you get a title order, what we need sent to us, and also the authorization form the seller fills out when they sell a property, and a copy of just a title commitment that's a dummy title commitment, so we can go over that and you can see what title looks like and what we're looking for when we go over that. So we'll just get started, I guess. Let me and stop if anybody has questions along the way. All right, so what is title insurance? I need to move this screen over a little bit. Okay. At its most basic level, title insurance ensures the home buyer that they've bought the home from the correct seller, and ensures the mortgage lender that they're making a loan to the right person. So we're checks and balances. We're making sure that everything lines up, that your seller is actually the one that can sell it. Examples being, let's say someone passes away and it's now in an estate, or did they take title in a trust? Who's a trustee? Who can sign for the property? Sometimes who think is the seller is not the seller because of just some weird circumstances. Just an FYI with that as well, if in the state of Wisconsin, if you're married, both husband and wife sign the deed. Even if the one spouse purchased it 5 years ago before they were married, just make a note that always a husband and wife, no matter who's in title, has to sign. The offer, I know Kimmy likes it clean from start to finish. So no matter what, unless it's a rental property, husband and wife sign everything. Title insurance looks backwards in time from the real estate closing back to the land patent, and is paid once, usually at the closing. So we go back to see all the different, sometimes 25, 40 years searches to see the chain of title. We look at all the past deeds. For comparison, an auto policy looks forward from the policy date and protects against things that may happen in the future, and is paid annually year after year after year. As with all insurance, the title insurance policy covers certain risks, but contains exclusions and exceptions from coverage. Title insurance can be issued to the buyer of real property, the owner's policy, and the new lender, the loan policy. So if you are the listing agent, you would be, and you get an offer, that's when you send us the order. If you have a buyer and you get an accepted offer, the lender would be ordering through us. So the lender will reach out to her, have you guys tell them you'd like to use Focus Title. Then the lender would send us the order when there's a buyer for you.
Really quick, Jenny?
Yes.
What if you have a cash buyer?
So a cash buyer is really, really, those are great. So those just piggyback the seller's title company always, because you don't need your own anything. It's very simple. If you have the buyer, it's usually 1 or 2 documents to sign for a cash deal, and you'll just always piggyback the seller's title company.
Okay, so I should just ask the listing agent who they're using, and then contact that title company with my buyer's information.
Yes, if they've sent them the order already, like what we do, if we get a seller's cash deal, after title comes out, we'll usually reach out to the buyer's agent and just offer, you know, do they want a physical closing? Do we want a remote closing? We tend to do remote closings on all cash deals as well, just because it's so easy. The seller will pre-sign and then we set up 2 documents for the agents to set up to e-sign, and they wire the day before closing, and it's boom, boom. So if they have not reached out to you yet, yes, I would definitely ask who their title company is, just so that you guys can communicate on what type of a closing you'd like for your buyer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What are some risks? Oddly enough, you know, we hate to say this, but sometimes sellers lie. Sometimes buyers lie. Sometimes the public records are wrong. What if a new neighbor builds a wall over your property's access point? So we recently just had an instance where a seller lied about the judgments on title. They weren't her. Nope, they're not her. Well, we could figure out that they were her. And so, you know, that doesn't happen often. But I will tell you that I think sometimes sellers don't realize all that we can find out on a title search. You know, we'll find out if there's judgments or liens that, you know, lately it seems a lot. It's just kind of tax liens. So that's all stuff. If we find out, we have to pay at closing, or they have to pay ahead of time. Or sometimes things are satisfied, but the bank didn't mail in the satisfaction, or the person that did the judgment didn't file with the clerk of court. So those are some ways we clear easy things. But yes, sometimes buyers lie. You know, unfortunately, they don't realize too, when they're taking out a loan, that, you know, they might have judgments out there they didn't realize, or they knew about, but, you know, oh, they won't find those. And those would have to be paid off as well at closing per the lender. Public records are wrong sometimes. Sometimes a wrong legal description gets recorded with the mortgage. Sometimes someone's names are spelled wrong. You know, these are all things we try to catch before closing, but we have a lot of eyes. We have us, the closers, processors, our recording clerk. We have a lot of people that check everything, but sometimes things get recorded wrong. And hence the property, you know, builds a wall. This is another thing. There's easements. We find easements that people may or may not have, you know, recorded, or they thought they recorded. Someone might build a fence on the property line and didn't record anything, but now they're going to sell it, and now we have an issue. Do they have to tear it down? Is the neighbor going to be okay with it? There's just all sorts of weird things you just don't realize that come into play when someone's selling a property. What do I get with title insurance? Well, the title insurance company has a duty to defend the insured in litigation if something would happen. The duty to defend extends to any claim that could result in a claim the insurance company would have to pay, but does not include claims that are clearly excluded from coverage. So claims could be, we missed a mortgage. Bless you. We missed a mortgage, second mortgage. For somehow our examiner missed it, and now there's a mortgage on the property that we didn't pay off. We would ultimately pay it, and we'd have to, you know, go after the seller for the money if, you know, they weren't forthcoming of the fact that we didn't have this mortgage to be paid off. So that's one thing. The title insurance company also has a right to prosecute a claim productively to establish or quiet title. So that's kind of what I'm saying, is that we'd pay off and go after if someone had lied. Or we write a check. All right, so this is just where we search. We search a lot of places. So this is all that we're searching for in the places we search to see if we find any of these items outstanding on the property. So example, the deeds, easements and restrictions, mortgages, federal tax liens, federal judgments, state and federal environmental liens, any kind of liens and foreclosures, lis pendens, pre-foreclosure. The clerk of courts then is where you'd find judgments for contractors, construction, state tax warrants, any kind of liens, and divorces. If someone is going through a divorce, we've had this happen lately too. People are divorced, but they never did a quitclaim deed. And so both are still in title. And that's another case where they would still both have to sign, even though they are divorced. One gets the money. We have to review marital settlement agreements a lot when there's a divorce. So we know, was a husband or wife paid out? Did they get it? Do we have to give them some of the proceeds? So that's just a little something there. All right. A federal judgment in a civil action could create a lien on the property of a judgment debtor. Properties in certain Wisconsin counties differ from other counties. So it does vary from county to county. And sometimes we can find bankruptcies as well. We need to know that too. If a seller is going through a bankruptcy, we have to find out from the bankruptcy attorney if they can even sell the property. Sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. So we have to get approval from the bankruptcy courts to allow them to sell the property and figure out if there's proceeds, where are they going, if any. So that's something else. Treasurer's office. We search the treasurer's office. We need to find out if taxes are paid. Are they up to date? We need to know properties exempt from real estate taxes include government-owned properties and churches, so they don't have taxes. If the county forgets to add a property tax to the tax roll, the county can still collect those taxes for a period of 2 years thereafter. It can happen. Does not happen often, but it can happen. We look at the treasurer's office. So gap endorsements, which is a part of every offer to purchase, that came to play about 5 years ago, where it just was put in the offer. And that is, we insure between the closing, the recording of the deed and the closing date. So there's that gap in there that could be 5 days, depending on how quickly everything's getting done. That all of a sudden someone took out a second mortgage on their property and didn't tell us, and it wasn't paid off, and they did it. We actually had this happen. Someone has a line of credit, it's a zero balance, and then the week of the closing, they decide to take 10 grand out and not tell anybody. So thankfully, in the instances we've had, the sellers were like, oh, oops, sorry, I'll just go pay that and we're fine. But if someone put a construction lien on the property during that gap time, that would be something that we insure over. So the examiners do a verbal update about a week prior to closing, 5 days prior to closing, and they search the records again, because the initial search might have been 30 days ago when title first went out. Well, now they search again a couple days before closing to be sure nothing showed up during that 30 days when they did the original search. And that just, we want to make sure we have the tightest gap for finding anything out. We order assessment search. So special assessments are something we order with every title order. And that's from the municipality that the property is located. And we get those back in about 5 to 7 days. And the municipality lets us know if the water bill is paid. What was the water bill? What was the time frame of the last water bill? And then we prorate that on the statement. Taxes are done the same way. Homeowners association or condo dues are done the same way. And that's how we find all that out. If there's any special assessments on the property, meaning they put in a sidewalk and someone's paying, $10,000 over 5 years. So we have to pay all that off at closing if there is anything outstanding, unless the buyer and seller come to an agreement on who's paying that. So we do not virtually inspect the home for improvements. Obviously, you guys do all that through your inspections and appraisals, the lender does. We need to know a lot of rental properties lately. We've had a lot. And so we always have to get the leases and security deposit information. So those can be put on the statement to be credited to the buyer or prorated as the rents would be prorated for the date of closing. So that's something else we need to make sure we're taking care of all that money being transferred correctly. Any questions? Okay. So here is just a sample of the title commitment for you guys to look at. So when you get the title commitment at the top, it's always going to show you your title contact and your closing contact. Obviously, Jennifer did this and she likes sports. So we've got Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre as the title people in closing contact here. So if you receive your title commitment, you ever have any questions, you know who you can reach out to for title or closing questions. This was completed February 1st at 8 a.m. That's the commitment date. And then we've got the policy amount here. This is how much the purchase price is, that $200,000, and then it shows the buyer's names. When you get this, you guys can take a look at it, and you want to make sure everybody's names are spelled correctly. That's probably one of the biggest things I tell the agents is take a look at the title commitment, make sure everything looks right. Is the purchase price correct? Did purchase price change after the inspection and we didn't get the new amendment? So you're going to want to make sure that you get that amendment over to us and we can get the purchase price corrected. If there's a lender involved, they're going to be having the loan policy on there and their name. And then we're going to look at the owner's name. So when you get this, you want to say, look at the owner's names to be sure the person you're dealing with is the person that's actually in title. Is it an estate? Is it a trust? Is it an LLC? So you always want to be sure, because sometimes people forget to mention, or they just forget that they put the property in a trust, especially maybe dealing with some older people, they might not remember that they put it in a trust. So always check to be sure. And then
Really quick, I'm so sorry.
no,
This is a dumb question. So any changes, obviously with purchase price or like a closing cost credit after the inspection or anything at all with money, we
Yeah.
should send to you.
yes, all
Okay.
along the way. So yep, and that happens a lot. So after an inspection, work has to be done or is not being done. So any closing cost credits, anything like that, purchase price changes. Sometimes the buyer changes their name. They decide they want to buy in an LLC and not their personal name. So any changes, yes, get all that over to us right away so we can make the updates.
On either side of the transaction, if you're this, if the buyer is asking you as the listing agent and you're representing the seller, anything's getting changed, I will send to you.
Yep.
And maybe the other person's agent will send to their title company, but everyone will be on the same page then.
Correct. Yes. Any
Okay.
changes, just get over to us, and then we'll, if it's, because sometimes there'll be inspections and there's no money changes, but it says the seller has to do this work or this work or this work. That tells us we need to make sure we ask for lien waivers. So any work done in the last 6 months or with the closing inspection, everything, we have to get the lien waivers, paid receipts. And sometimes, especially it happens a lot where maybe someone had to have some windows fixed and they don't have the money. So now we're paying it at closing. So you want to make sure if we're paying anything at closing, especially, we know that contractors will agree to that. And then we'll just pay those at closing. Okay. All right. So then on here as well, then you're just going to want to make sure you look at the address. Make sure the address is exactly how it should be. Make sure we didn't do any typos. We want to make sure everything's caught right away. So take a look to be sure that title, the address looks correct. All right. Let's go back up one thing, make sure purchase date, loan amount. Yep. Okay. All right. This next page. Okay. Buyer's name, don't goof up. Okay. Making sure. So again, just anything, making sure the names are all right. Okay. All right. So on title, sometimes just to reference, so if a husband and wife take title together and then one passes away, and the one person's selling it, they're going to both still show up on the front of the title because we look at the deed. even though they're deceased, it would still show both of their names. So if someone has passed away, then we would call as a requirement on the next page for an HT 110. And what that is, it's a document that we record that removes the deceased spouse from the transaction. So the one surviving spouse can sell it without issue. And that's just something just to throw out there. So, all right. All right, so this then the page 2 is all the requirements, and these are basically my instructions. It's going to tell me that we need to invoice for this. Everybody's agreeing to pay for the title insurance. And then it tells me that I have to draft a deed and a mortgage. So just basically, these are my instructions that I'll go through what I need to do. I want to make sure that one of the biggest things when you guys, I find this, I think I almost need to tell this to even experienced agents been in the business a long time. When you're drafting an offer, you really want to, at the top of the offer, if you are the buyer's agent, you want to make sure the top line where you put the buyer's names, ask them how they want to hold title. You know, if it's Dan and Kate selling, buying a property, and you put Dan and Kate, but his legal name and his name, he signs everything normally is Danielle or Daniel. You want to make sure that you're putting how they want to hold title. Do they want middle initials in there? Do they not want middle initials in there? Because we order title and put the names in exactly as they're written on the offer to purchase on the first page. And I can't tell you how often we get down the road, oh, his name should be this, and they want their middle initials. And so really, when you're drafting an offer, discuss with your buyers how they want to hold title and make sure that you're putting it exactly on that first line of the offer. Just, it's really important for us. So we touched base slightly on the divorce. We want to make sure, who's getting the money. When an estate is selling the property or trust, just as an FYI, kind of for the back of your head, however title is held, let's go back one, however title is held, like here, Donald and Betty Draper, that is how the check is being cut. So if it's an estate, it's in a trust, it's an LLC, that's, the check is made out to whoever's in title. Now, Donald and Betty decide they want to split it 50-50, they're separating. However, we have a form that can be filled out in a case like that, where they can determine so-and-so is getting 50 or 100%. But if it's a trust or if it's an LLC, it cannot change. It has to go to that, that entity. We find that sometimes people put their property in the name of the trust, but the lawyer never tells them to open a bank account in the name of the trust. So we have some issues sometimes, but we really, just so you're aware, whoever's entitled, that's who the check's going to. Someone will say, can I pay my brother out of the closing for this? They helped me buy the property. No, we'll pay you and you can take care of all of that after closing. All right. All right, so someone cannot attend the closing. So we have people out of the country or going to leave out of the country, or someone's elderly. So we will see a lot of times that buyer or seller will use a power of attorney. If they're elderly, most of the time those are put in place. We review them, they're fine. But if someone is selling a property or leaving the country, we would want to get a POA and power of attorney in place before they would leave, so that someone else could sign for them if they're not going to be around. Now, people out of the country we have email documents to them, and they would have to go sign at a U.S. embassy because they can only be notarized by a U.S. notary, even overseas. So we will have people out of the country have to sign with at an embassy and then overnight the documents back to us. We've had that happen. If your seller is out of the state, we would do the same thing. We do that all the time. We email documents to your sellers, or overnight them, depending on if they can print out documents. They would take them to a local notary and sign them and then overnight them back to us. So we do that fairly often. And oddly enough, in the pandemic here, we have done quite a few buyer mailaways. And we work with a company called Bank Serve, and we would hire them to meet with your buyers in a different state to sign the lender documents with them and overnight back to us for close as well. All right. If your sellers, we find out are in a trust or an LLC, we do need to review those documents most of the time. If Donald and Barr are the trustees of their own trust, then we just have a form they have to fill out. But if the kids are selling the property for their deceased parents and it's in a trust, we would need to review the trust documents to be sure, okay, they can sign and they can sell the property. Same with LLC documents. If it's an LLC, we need to see their operating agreement, articles of organization, and a resolution. Those are the documents we review to see who can sell the property. And so we need to be sure the right people are signing. All right. We do e-record everything. So we do everything electronically now. So it's done fairly quickly. And then that's mailed back to the buyer and they just hang on to the recorded deed. The mortgage gets recorded and goes back to the lender. Okay, so next page, Schedule B, Part 2 is exceptions. So these first ones are all common exceptions. They are on all commitments, just as basic on every file. Oh, I keep jumping too fast. Where am I here? Okay. So this will also tell me trying to arrow down on my thing here, but okay. All right, so these are common, those are on every one. And then we will find out, so this just goes basically what each one is here. So the one is for the gap. We want to make sure that we're covering everything, we're not missing anything. Special assessment letters, we clear all of this by our special assessment letters and looking to be sure that there's no recorded easements. We didn't miss anything. So this just goes over everything that we're looking at. We want to make sure is clear. All right, so now also in the same section is where it will tell me if the taxes are paid or not. If I need to pay them, I'm going to be adding all of this to the closing statement as it pertains, but we have to look into it. So 101 shows the taxes are delinquent. I'm going to get a payoff and I'm going to pay that at closing. There's a special assessment that's owed. Okay, I'm going to get a payoff and pay that. This is just a really bad title commitment. He doesn't pay anything. So, but if you look at 300, there's a tax lien. Sometimes when we get into these where there's liens and judgments, we will maybe need the help of the seller to get these payoffs, depending on what it is, because we can't get some of the information from the government. They just really want to talk to the person. Judgments, we can try to help if we have the information, but a lot of the time we will work with the seller to get those items to pay. 400 is a mortgage. We'll request that payoff. And then 401 is a security interest. So we'll see this a lot of times when there's LLCs involved because they have multiple properties that might be attached to one loan. So it's just called a security interest. And we would request a payoff for this property and at least get a partial release so we can have this title and this property free and clear of any of those items. Any questions up so far? Okay. All right. All right, how do I deal with an old mortgage on title? So this again is just going over some of the things I was talking about. So we've had this lately actually happen as well. The seller paid off their line of credit and closed it, but it's still on title. Well, the lender did not file a satisfaction or record a satisfaction at the Register of Deeds. So we have to look into that. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, depending on if it's a big bank. sometimes we have this happen. The banks have been bought out by another bank, and it can take a while to have this happen. That is one of the reasons I always suggest you get a title order, you get accepted offer on the listing side, you want to get that order to us very quickly. We don't want to wait for inspection. We don't want to wait for anything, because in case there's issues, we want to get the ball rolling so we have time to clean them up. If this deal would fall through with an inspection for some reason, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get another offer, and then we would just pick up where we left off no matter what. So especially we're busy already, so make sure if you get an accepted offer, you're getting everything to us. I sent a checklist over that tells you everything we need. So just make sure you're getting that over to us. Lately, we've actually had previous owners' mortgages on title. So the person before your seller, when they bought it, somehow it didn't get cleared or it just didn't get recorded. So now we're tracking down other people's mortgages sometimes. So it can be crazy. I mean, what shows up on title sometimes is pretty interesting. And so you want to make sure that you get it over to us. All right, what if there's a mortgage or lien not shown on the commitment and the owner knows about it? So we've had that too. Sometimes we've had someone had take out a mortgage and the bank never recorded the mortgage. So now we've got something we have to pay off and there's not even a recorded mortgage. So we'll work with the bank to figure out how they want to handle it. We obviously will still pay it off no matter what, because we don't want anything outstanding on the property. So we talked about the check, that it needs to be made out to the person in title. The owner shares a driveway with a neighbor. So we want to know if that shared driveway is something that would have been recorded. So we want to be sure that everyone's aware that this guy shares a driveway with his neighbor. So there's never any issue on to what is with this property, I should say. But if a recorded document is screwed up, again, we'll do correction instruments if we find something was done wrong, and fix that. So there's always a way to fix anything. What if you see Liz pendens on title? And so that's where property has started the foreclosure process. You can sell a property up to the day before a sheriff's sale. So, and foreclosures can sometimes take about 2 years from start to finish. So there is a lot of time to sell a property, even if it started the foreclosure process. So we just want to make sure that we're in contact with their bank. We have all the correct information, and we'll work to get the property sold before it would go to foreclosure. Doesn't follow the closing instructions. So we just want to make sure that, everything goes smoothly. I found that just communicating with everyone, the other title company, if there is one, everyone in my office, the agents, you just want to make sure that you are communicating everything with us along the way so nothing gets missed. Was a closing pushed off? Did somebody camera? So all of that we need from you guys all along the way. So we're just kept in the loop on what's going on with this particular property. Because we put a lot of work into the files and we want to make sure that we're just, if a deal falls through, we'll put it away for now, and then we'll continue working on what we have in front of us. All right. So I wanted to go over one other thing here. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Can you put me back up there? What am I doing? Am I? Okay. All right. I want to show you guys. So Julia, do you send them the things I sent over? I don't know if she's there or not. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see. So there's a couple of things. It says, what is title insurance? You guys see that okay? So I don't
Very pixelated.
Okay. So did you see, do you have the handouts she sent you guys? So there's.
Yeah, she sent them in the chat.
Okay.
quite a few of them.
Okay, so there's a couple things that I want to show you because there's one that says, what is title insurance? This kind of just goes over, and this is something that we can, I can do these flyers for you if you want to put them in buyer seller packets. If you want to, because this talks about title insurance, it's for you guys, but it's also really for the buyers and sellers. So they understand what title insurance is and what it does for them. Also the why you need title insurance, because that also talks about what we're doing. Again, I think these are great flyers that we could give you guys to put in your buyers and seller packets. And then also there's one that says sold, which I thought this was really great. This talks about what happens now along the way. I think this is great for buyers and sellers as well. And it kind of talks about everything that we're going to be doing along the way. It also has my contact information on it. So that way they know who they're dealing with, the company they're dealing with, my contact information's on there. And then it just really spells out everything that'll happen now with the property getting an accepted offer. I'm just going to jump to, I've got another slideshow. Let me pull that one up here. Okay. All right, let me square my. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump to this. This just talks about focus title a little bit here. So we're going to go over this. You guys are my guinea pigs. It's my first time with these slideshows, so bear with me a little bit. Thank you. All right. So here, this just talks about us a little bit here. Focus Title is a licensed title agency serving the Milwaukee area. Talks about our 5 offices. I want to say that all the managers in the offices have been in the business 10, 15 plus years. So we have a lot of experience in the industry. And I feel like we have just great talent working for Focus Title with Nightbear behind us. Nightbear, boy, we're up to about 70 offices in the state. So just as an FYI with that, we can close at any office in the state. So we have sellers that are in Madison. We have sellers in Manitowoc. We have sellers in La Crosse. We can use those offices to sign for pre-signs or purchases. So we really have a luxury having such a large title company behind us. So we can utilize that to close all over the place. And we've opened offices, oddly enough, which is fun, in Florida and Houston. We have one in Michigan and Minnesota. So we've got a lot of expanding going on. And even in the area here, we'll utilize their offices to close that if need be. Sheboygan, Kenosha, we've been doing a lot in those areas as well. So we'll go down to our Kenosha office, or they'll help us close it if need be. So this is where it talks about all of that for the offices. And we just bought a couple, I know we just invested in a couple more. So we're just really lucky to have them. Part of what we get as well, having Nightbear behind us, is we use their underwriters and legal teams. So we have any questions when it comes to title issues. We have great attorneys on staff that we will reach out to if we need help with something. If there's some things that can't be cleaned up prior to closing, but we want to get this to close, sometimes we'll do escrow agreements or secured indemnity agreements, where we'll hold some money. Let's say we order a payoff and we don't get it in time, but we want to get this closed. So we'll hold funds if need be, so we can at least get to the closing table. And then if there's funds available, I will say, and then we'll still close and then clean that up when it comes in. Okay. So these are all of the products we offer. So the purchase sale transaction, that's basically when you send us your listing, you get an offer on your listing and send that to us. We would order a purchase sale for that. The The lender's title insurance is when the lender would set us an order for your buyer. And that's that's what we'll do, the lender side of the closing. Lot of refinances, obviously this market, this crazy market this past year, we have done a ton of refinances with the markets, the rates so low. So that's kept us very busy as well. New construction is hot right now again this past year. So we'll do construction loans where we'll use Nightbear's department to go do inspections and draws. So we'll do the construction end of things. Limited junior policy, we'll see that sometimes. Otherwise, a letter report. If a letter report is basically just to look, $75. Someone will order it just to see. I want to know if there's anything on my property. Can I order a letter report? So we'll have people sometimes call for that. And a property profile. This is really, really nice. So if this is a free product we offer, the property profile. You're going to a listing appointment, or prior to a listing appointment, you're looking at getting this property and you see some red flags, or you're not sure, something seems off, or someone passed away. And you say to me, can you do a property profile on this property? I want to see who owns it. I want to see if there's any judgments and liens out there before I take the listing. So we can do a quick look for you and get that for you in really minutes. Sometimes it's a very quick report. So we can get that over to you. And that way, you have some information going into the listing appointment about the property, a little bit more than you would. So I would suggest, if we don't want to do this on everyone, but if you're concerned or you're not sure, or just something seems weird, you just really want some more information, and we'll get that for you. So you would email us to request a property profile. All right. Closing process. All right. All right. Closing is a term used for the point of time which the title to the property is transferred to the buyer, and generally a mortgage is given by the buyer to the lender. So obviously a lot happens, and it's pretty exciting. There's a lot going on with the buyers and sellers. It's the biggest transaction of most people's lives, is purchasing a home. I feel like we do have a great team here. You get it over to us where we really want to respond good to you, keep the communication up between the lender, the buyer, the sellers. My team really is quick to respond to you guys. Usually when people are reaching out to us, they have questions that need to be answered pretty timely sometimes. So we're here for you. We want to answer, any questions, title questions, closing questions. You're not sure, just reach out to us. We're here for you, just like the team at Keller Williams is. We're here for you because, it's a big process, purchasing a property from start to finish. And so we just want to make it smooth for you and your buyers and sellers. So I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but kind of just talks about what we went over between the last two slideshows. So, all right, if you have not done the app, you want to do our Focus Agent 1 app, I can send you my link, or if you click on here, then it's, I think you can pick me as your person. But what's really awesome about this app is you can personalize it. For one, you can put your face on there. You can do net sheets for buyers and sellers before a listing appointment. You can put your face on it. And it does a really nice sheet you can print out and provide to your buyers or sellers if they want to compare renting to owning. You're trying to figure out if they should rent or own, or they're not sure if they should buy. You can do comparisons. You can see how much someone can spend for the property. What are their closing costs going to be? We have all the taxes built in for the municipalities. All the title fees are built in. So I would say if you don't have our app, you should get it. And it's easy. There's tutorials on there that can help you with whatever you're looking for. And I really feel like it's a great tool. So get that if you have not. And so it just shows some of the things here. You can compare offers, multiple offers. It's amazing how much they've put into this app. So this just kind of goes over that, compare offers, and then It shows what's included, and if you want to upgrade, it's $10 a year to get more things that are offered. But for the free, there is a ton on what is offered. So again, check that out, look into it, see. I just think it's a great tool for you to have and play around with. I'll just leave that up for a minute. You can see what. Now, I don't know, Focus Title has transaction coordinators. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Renee and the Julie and the team over there. So, it's kind of nice. There's a couple different levels you can use them at, $295 up to, I think, $495-ish. And they can be your admin. You're not paying a full-time person. It's per transaction, and they can really help hold your hands through a lot of it, and help you as your assistant. So if you have not looked into that, you can definitely talk to Renee and find out more about it, if you're interested in that. So there's just 2 pages on that. I'm just going to grab something from over here. Okay. All right. So yeah, so this just talks about it a little bit more about what is all offered for the transaction coordinator process. So lots of levels. If you want to look into it, reach out to Renee. All right. So I'm just going to go up to the top here. All right, I'm just going to go over a couple of things here that the checklist that you have that I had her send over. So make sure you keep the checklist handy so it knows what you need to send to us when you get an offer. When you go to the listing appointment, be sure to ask the sellers for the prior title commitment. If they have the prior title commitment and you send it to us with the offer, they get a discount of 20%. So it can be a significant savings. So when you go to the listing appointment, make sure you are asking for the title, prior title commitment. I would suggest at the listing appointment, you also give them the authorization form, which I sent over with the documents as well. It's newer. We added some more items on it that can be checked off. So if you had the old one, switch out to this one because it asks a few more questions that are important for us to draft the deed. So, and I suggest a lot of times at the listing appointment, have them fill out and sign this form the best they can at the listing appointment. That way we're not chasing it down later. Otherwise, sometimes we can have it electronically filled out, but there are some lenders that don't like electronic signatures when we're sending stuff over. So I just suggest throw it in your listing packet, have them fill it out at the signing of the listing, and that is one less thing we have to worry about later. Something I tell the sellers is do not pay off any lines of credits once they've started the process of selling a property, especially in this quick market. So if someone would, let's say they sign a listing appointment with you or listing contract with you and they decide, oh, I'm going to go close this line of credit. It's a zero balance. We don't want them to do that because it can take months for something like that to show up recorded at the Register of Deeds, and that would hold up the closing. We don't want that to happen. And some people think they're doing us a favor. So just make sure you tell the buyers and sellers any mortgages they have out there, just leave alone. Title company will take care of paying off and closing anything that's out there existing. All right, went over that. Again, husband and wife have to sign everything unless it's a rental property. And water bills. I always tell people if something's due prior to closing, they can pay a water bill, but we don't want them paying a water bill the day of closing, which we just had happen yesterday. It's closing today and they went and paid the water bill yesterday. So now we got to hold the check until it shows up paid because that stuff doesn't happen overnight. So just anything prior to closing, and we try to, again, communicate with you and the buyers and sellers to, let them know what they should or shouldn't pay. And I feel like we've been more and more involved with communicating with sellers directly with the agents, like in emails and such. And we just want to make sure, we don't have any hiccups. So we just really are transparent about everything and get that communication going right away with them. We always want to get the lender information from you guys right away, too, because we'll reach out to them. If we get the listing side of things from you, we'll reach out to the lender to request they use us as well, because we really want both sides of the transaction if we can have it. So just remember, if you have the buyer as well, you can refer us to your lender or your buyer's lender and offer our services for them as well. So we're getting more and more lender sides, which is nice as well. When you get the closing statement, so you'll get the title out first, and then you'll get the closing statement from us in about 2 weeks prior to closing, a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to closing. That document, you want to look over and make sure, again, the numbers are correct. Purchase price correct. Make sure the commissions are correct. Sometimes we'll have a commission change midway through the transaction, or we forgot to put that admin fee on there, the $295 or $695, whatever it is. So definitely when you get the closing statement, make sure the purchase price looks correct, your commissions look correct. Just kind of glance over it. Again, everything's spelled correctly. So you want to look at that as well. And if anything's, not correct, let us know. We'll get that fixed. When you find out about the closing, make sure you let us know so we can get that scheduled. We're busy and it's kind of first come, first serve. We might have to move closings around a little bit. 5 people want to close at 9 o'clock on Friday. Well, we can't do that. So we'll just let us know as soon as you hear for that. And about that week and a half prior to closing, we'll reach out to the sellers to ask for a pre-sign. Most sellers are pre-signing, some will attend the closing, but we'll reach out to your sellers and include you in that, asking to set up the pre-sign with us. And that will take place here, or if they're located different locations, we can go out to Heartland or Germantown or wherever you need to be. We want to accommodate the customer. So we will do whatever is best for them. Wire fraud. I know that Charlie has talked about this with you guys before. And so we have started implementing, and thankfully we don't have any issues, knock on wood, because we really are diligent about this, but we would never email you wiring instructions ever, never, ever. So we will let you know when we're reaching out to your buyers for cash deals, and we will take care of communicating with them directly about getting funds wired for closing. People wire to us every day and we wire out every day. There's no issue as long as we follow that. And if you don't have that 2-factor set up on your computer or phone, make sure you do that, because that's really how these hackers get in. So just know that we will never send you wiring instructions directly. Okay. Any questions on anything we've gone over today?
Is there a list of all the offices in the area?
I can get an updated list. Yes, I have a list on my wall here, and I'm thinking it's not the most current. So let me reach out to HR and see if she's got a new one, and I could definitely send that out to you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Make a note of that right now. No matter what office you're in as well, just make sure that you reach in, and each of the offices are here for you. So if you have questions, or email, stop in, whatever, we're here for you. So I think that's it for me.
I had a question. This is kind of random. I was looking at the monthly affordability calculator on the app.
Yeah.
And it has this convenient thing where you can choose property taxes, but it only lists about 10 suburbs. So what do you do if you're in a different suburb?
You have, I think it's per county, so I believe there's a way to change the county.
Well, like in Milwaukee County, it's missing like Fox Point and Bayside, River Hills.
Well, because they're considered still Milwaukee County, they're still considered Milwaukee. Like, these are all like Shorewood, Bayside, Fox Point, they should all pull up no matter what, because they're still, like, you could put it Milwaukee or Fox Point because it's Milwaukee. So it should all come up. If you put that, are you finding, it should still, because that's all that's the taxes are per Milwaukee, and this is all considered. Fox
Yeah,
Point give you,
Just check it out, see what you see.
yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be fine that way.
seems
but-
like a few are missing.
Okay, I will look into it.
Thanks.
Sure. All right, anything else? All right. Is Julia on somewhere? Or she's gonna pop back in? Let me message her once. Hold on. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay. So did you see, I see the one, can you go over the specific documents we need to give you once we have an accepted offer? Did you see, I think she sent over my checklist. Yeah, the Focus Brokers checklist, that's the first one. That shows everything we need. Which is the offer, the prior, listing contract, copy of the earnest money, any amendments. So it shows a list of everything we need. So if you just keep that somewhere handy, you guys will know what to send us. All right. Do you guys, would they have you go over something else?
Looks like we're done.
I don't know what she was. I just messaged her. So, all right. Thank you guys. We'll end the meeting then.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.